Welcome to today's webinar on the topic of omnichannel challenges within medical affairs. My name is Scott Richards, and I'm the creator of this presentation, and I'll be walking you through it for the next 15 or 20 or so minutes. A brief introduction about my experience and background. I've been working in omnichannel marketing for close to 25 years at this point, across a variety of different capabilities, verticals, as well as organizations. I have a whole bunch of experience across all of big and small pharma in both commercial and medical affairs roles. I also have first-hand experience trying to drive what I'm calling Marketing 101 and omnichannel transformation within a sizable medical affairs organization. Hopefully that builds some sort of confidence that I know this topic fairly well, but enough about me, let's get started. As we look at the landscape of medical affairs, it's really been changing over the last 5 to 8 years in the areas that I'd call Marketing 101. You can find these topics and initiatives at the latest MAP conferences, things like advanced segmentation, modular content, personalization, next best action. And while these are new areas for medical affairs, they've really been discussed at length for years on the commercial side of the business and should be fairly readily available and commonplace to your organization today, either in development or already implemented in some sort of scale. If not, we can have a separate webinar about that at a future date. You would assume that having those existing capabilities and that awareness would actually make this transformation for medical affairs easier, but it really doesn't. And that's the topic of the presentation today, and we're going to go through a couple of reasons why. The first and main challenge area I see is that the medical affairs customer experience is more complex than the commercial side of the business. And that complexity is never accounted for in marketing technology capabilities or infrastructure projects. And those are the projects that typically lead the conversation and investments for pharmaceutical organizations. To give you a good example of this, let's just look at something really basic like a website. A typical commercial website is 18 to 25 pages of static content that's made up of product information, MOA, FAQs, basic stuff. This is what I'd consider high volume, low value content, right? Because when customers are coming to this, they're spending 25, 30 seconds and they're typically bouncing after 1 or 2 pages. On the medical affairs side, their websites can span 100 pages with several complex API connections into the backend. You have things like a medical document search, a Congress library, finding and connecting with an MSL. You're going to be talking about fellowships, clinical trials, grants and funding, disease ed content. It's really fairly comprehensive. And when you look at, let's say, the customer engagements that you get through there, customers come here, they spend 5 to 10 minutes, they're engaging with your content, they're hand raising, they're saying, I want to engage with you and build some sort of relationship with you. The challenge is that the commercial website will always be prioritized, even though it has such low engagement and questionable value as the attribution model, can't really tell you what is the value of the website within that larger customer experience on the commercial side. On the medical affairs side, this is typically going to get deprioritized because it's not part of the sales process and you're not part of the ROI conversation. But it has more potential value to impact customer outcomes because it's a destination where users spend time on high-value interactions with you. And that leads to the second challenge here, which is how do you justify these costs? How do you justify the additional expense of implementing omnichannel capabilities when most medical affairs organizations have a hard time articulating their existing value story in a way that senior leaders who are motivated by ROI and sales numbers can get behind? And this is important to know before you get started because your costs are going to increase exponentially when you start implementing omnichannel experiences at scale. This is because your planning and strategic costs increase to support more complex journeys. To enable those experiences, your content costs and your asset costs increase. Your operational costs for managing and measuring and orchestrating all the above increase. This also means that there's going to be additional increases in headcount as core skill sets such as strategic planning, CX planning, content strategy are not traditional medical affairs roles. And existing COE teams that are typically aligned with commercial endeavors are understaffed. Medical affairs is not a primary focus. Budgets to tackle these initiatives are traditionally only reserved for sizable, profitable brands and are not for mid-tier or sunsetting products. So how do you actually scale this across your entire portfolio? And then how do you measure the impact of this evolution to justify costs since you can't tell the ROI story that you can on the commercial side? It's not easy. The third piece of this is around vision. Even if you could articulate the value and get buy-in on your omnichannel plans, where are you going with it? It's one thing to say we're going to create a better customer experience, but how do sales and marketing-enabled processes and tools align with the medical affairs remit of scientific and clinical support? And part of the challenge overall is that as an industry, there's no real discussion about what the adoption of omnichannel and marketing 101 means for a medical affairs organization outside of improving customer experience. Where's the articulation of why we need to make the investment from the previous slide? What is a singular goal that can be easily understood, easily articulated to non-medical affairs professionals, and easily measured year over year? And if you're going to change how an organization goes to market, you need to have a vision of where it is going and why. Your current medical affairs experts don't have that experience to define your why based on this shift either. They're relying on outside influences to tell them what they need to do. Consultants that typically sell them a lift and shift plan that was sold to another company down the block without the follow-through of where it went. You have IT and marketing technology teams pushing this change to help justify costs of implementing it. So this way, on the commercial side of the business, they can check a box and saying, yes, it's being used at an enterprise level, and magically everyone's happy. Commercial and existing center of excellence teams don't understand medical affairs and its complexity. There are more channels, more nuance, more different relationships, and different goals. So the definition and need for omnichannel is different. And then if you want to enable omnichannel effectively, you're going to inevitably increase the number of touch points you have with your customers, because the better you understand the journey, the more opportunities you're going to have for engagement. The same approach your corporate communications team is taking, similar to other therapeutic area teams, your commercial brand teams, your field teams, your unbranded efforts, and so on. And by taking the siloed approach as an organization and just saying, I want to do omnichannel for medical affairs, you're still putting your customers last. Because what happens when you build omnichannel one function at a time is that you create this very fragmented, siloed way of going to market. One of the challenging aspects of omnichannel in general is that you have a variety of different teams really trying to go to market in the exact same way. Your go-to-market infrastructure is designed to support individual brand needs, not the needs of an organizational level CRM strategy, which is how your customers expect to engage with you. They want a seamless, consistent experience across your company. But without an overarching CRM strategy that aligns all your external customer touchpoints, you're going to end up with more touches that's fragmented, that's going to create more confusion for your customers, it's going to have inconsistent messaging, and it's just going to create a fairly poor experience for them. And finally, medical affairs is a relationship-based organization. We need relationships to be successful, but the current go-to-market approach is inefficient at identifying and creating and managing customer relationships over a product's lifecycle. Almost all organizational activities are focused on one point of a product's lifecycle and viewed as a one-and-done event, where they take a sampling of the audience at a singular moment in time and create a plan based on that, and not plan for how an HCP will grow with the brand over time, moving up and down your organizational relationship ladder, or considering how an HCP's needs will change from one year to the next, and proactively planning for those needs ahead of time. You have other challenges across this timeline. Every 3 or 4 years, you're going to have a new brand manager with a new 12-month planning lifecycle with new strategic imperatives that you're going to need to solve for. It means your HCP relationships might change, who and what you're classifying as a KOL changes, so there's no consistency of messaging themes. You might see 20 different messaging strategies for the same product across your career as an HCP, and if it changes too much, those HCPs are going to tune you out. The only real consistent piece of this is your face-to-face teams, your MSLs. The challenge there is that the relationship equity is built for the employee, not your organization. So if that employee leaves and goes to your competitor's product, which happens all the time, there goes your relationship. What complicates this even more is that the value an HCP can bring and how open they are to partner with organizations are typically not aligned. This means that it becomes more challenging to partner with HCPs the longer you wait to engage with them. And the HCPs that might want to engage with you may not be your top choices. You also have budget concerns because you can't realistically partner with everyone. So how do you start to solve for these challenges? One, you need to start by articulating your vision for omnichannel in the context of your medical affairs customers. How will enabling omnichannel build a better relationship? And what impact will that have on your organization in a way that can be measured and told year over year with a single metric? Two, if you expect your medically trained experts to also be experts in anything related to omnichannel, you are in for a tough road. Let your medical people focus on building medical strategies and hire omnichannel experts to manage the omnichannel pieces. Omnichannel has been around for over a decade in other verticals, and these experts cost 30 to 50% less without the PhD. It's also far easier to become fluent in the medical affairs landscape. I can typically train someone in 6 to 8 months, having gone through this recently, versus everything related to omnichannel, which is 6 to 8 years of hands-on work. You need to understand human behavior, you need to understand technology and tools, you need to understand analytics, you need to understand content, you need to understand a lot. You also need to rethink your planning processes and strategies with an outlook of who your customers are today and who they'll become tomorrow and build towards that future relationship. That's how you build trust and credibility that can be actioned against for insight and evidence generation and dissemination activities, not just every 12 months, but over the full lifecycle of your product. And finally, if you can create and justify your omnichannel vision with data, have a more robust relationship-based customer experience plan, have people who can bridge the medical and omnichannel world, then you can get a better seat at the planning table within your organization and start to build for tomorrow instead of constantly trying to catch up to commercial planning capabilities and their life cycle that doesn't align with your medical affairs needs. To wrap this up, the story of medical affairs' ability to build and maintain relationships, shape the market, generate actionable insights and evidence, and pave the way for commercial success needs to be told so the entire organization can understand the value medical affairs can bring. The medical affairs experience will become more demanding as we go, and its complexity to execute effectively needs to be prioritized when it comes to planning because you always want to build for the most complex use cases and turn off features versus what we have today, where your web channel is designed to enable essentially commercial microsites, and you have to fight for anything more advanced in a form. Hopefully this presentation has left you with some thoughts and takeaways for how to improve omnichannel within your medical affairs organization. And if you need help planning or overcoming this divide, feel free to reach out to me for some help. Thank you again for joining today. I'm Scott Richards, and I'll see you next time.